Erin, burst water pipes.
Yeah.
How much have you loved the last 5 days?
It's been a learning curve. We've had cold winters, and we've certainly had the odd burst water pipe in the few years, but this many is a bit intense. So,
how many? Because a lot of the plumbers have virtually just turned their phones off, just going, "We can't keep up."
I think one of them's actually curled up in the corner, rocking.
Fetal position. In particular, I thought for a lot of our landlords, they probably don't. Well, what we've learnt from this experience is that some landlords don't have the adequate insurance.
Yeah.
So what is the adequate insurance to be covered for them?
So a lot of people think, okay, I've got an investment property, I just need to insure the building and, the tenancy, and I'll get a tenancy insurance policy there. Well, what they don't realise is they actually need a contents component, and the contents component is probably your most costly expenses when it comes to insurance claims, particularly with burst water pipes. Your water pipes will be covered by your insurance company, which is great, with the building insurance. But your carpet, your light fittings, your window furnishings, anything that's...
Kitchens? Are kitchens covered?
No, kitchen will be part of your building insurance, but those sorts of things are covered as contents.
Yeah.
So if you have no contents component and you have to replace all the carpet in your property, you're in a bit of dire straits.
I would have thought landlord protection insurance, if they're going to say, hey, if tenant's done this damage, surely that would cover carpet.
No.
Is it some do, some don't? Or?
Some do, some don't. So a lot of your big insurance companies out there, your GIOs, NRMAs, AMIs, that are just used to covering cars and building and home and contents insurance type things, they're not really specialised for landlords or investment properties. And they'll often say, yep, you need your building insurance and you need a landlord insurance policy. And in those two policies, they never talk to you about any sort of contents, which gets a lot of owners in a fair bit of financial trouble. So when you're looking for insurance, make sure you've got a contents component. So a lot of them will just set a limit, but I'd be asking for at least $40,000 worth of contents on just your basic home.
Yeah. So is it worth our current landlords who are unsure at least making the phone call to find out? Make
a phone call. It won't hurt. And honestly, adding an extra $20,000, $40,000 or $60,000 contents to your insurance isn't going to, it's not going to break the bank. But even it's a good time to review your insurance policies and really see what you're getting out of them, because a lot of people shop around when it comes to paying a premium, and they're not always a great policy because they're looking for the cheapest and not necessarily the best.
I find certainly with credit cards or some banking facilities. Thanks, Guy.
Oh, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. At one point they can be good, and then at another point they can be bad. So we're recording this 2018 July. Is that right? Who are you finding great and easy to work with at the moment? Are there a couple? I know we're not supposed to recommend. So
we're not recommending anybody.
No, we don't know anything.
What I have found is I've done a fair few claims through EBM Insurance and also Terry Shear Insurance, and they're both insurance companies that are mainly set up for investors and investment properties. I find their excesses are quite low, so sometimes you're only paying $250 excess on a claim, where some of those big companies that I discussed earlier, I've had one landlord charge $1,800 for an excess, and it hardly makes claiming worthwhile.
You were telling me the other day there was one policy that every different thing was a new excess. So it was like $900 excess for carpet, then $900 for and $900 or whatever.
Well, it just depends on what they classify each thing. So say your tenant defaults on their rent and they owe X amount of dollars in rent, and you want to make a claim against that, they'll charge you a $500 excess. But at the same time, when a tenancy turns bad, it usually turns really bad, and there's rent and there's damage and there's this and there's that. And then every different classification of damage, whether it's intentional, malicious or accidental, will often have another excess involved. So you could have a big insurance claim that they charge you $2,000 excess before they pay you anything. And it doesn't, it's not worthwhile sometimes. So cheapest is not always best.
Steph, my wife, asked me, she said, do you do burst water pipes often happen in newer properties? Because I wonder whether there's this perception of my house is newer, surely it won't ever happen to a newer property.
Look, in theory, that shouldn't, but we found most of the problems happened when the tenants were away or the property was vacant. So they were the biggest ones. Older properties that have poor insulation, no flagging on their pipes, or the tenants don't have really good heating in the house, because sometimes just having your heating going in your house keeps the pipes warm enough that they're not going to freeze. So it's usually your older unheated properties, and particularly ones that no one's home.
A lot of people who are watching this, maybe from Sydney, might not realise how cold. So what did it get down to the other day?
Saturday morning, it was minus 7.2 degrees. So what happened is all the pipes froze, everyone woke up, there was no water running, and come 10 past 10, I think the call started on Sunday morning, all the pipes actually split, the water defrosted, and it was spraying everywhere. Yeah.
I heard up on Mount Canobolas minus 14.
There you go.
I don't think I believe that, but anyway.
Maybe wind chill.
It's very impressive. Let's compete with Moscow.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll catch up again next week.